Welcome to another episode of RELICS Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have. RELICS Radio is also now syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. You're listening to RELICS Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are listening to RELICS Radio right here on Spreaker. We want to welcome all of our live guests, and I see the chat already filling up. So we've got several listeners that are already tuning in. Also want to welcome all of our listeners on our syndicated segments on the Cutting Edge Radio Network. Now, we know that you guys are busy sometimes and you cannot catch a live show, and you have to catch the archive show, so we'll give you a shout out as well, whether you're picking it up here on Spreaker or the Cutting Edge Radio Network or Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify. We're everywhere. We are the world-famous RELICS Radio. And I'm joined tonight by the boss, Mr. Mark Hoover. How's it going tonight, Mark?
Well, it's going well. I'm glad to join you here tonight, Loy. I'm sorry that Jeff couldn't be the host tonight, so I'm delighted to be able to step in for him. But
yeah, his dad, they had to take his dad to the emergency room with some medical problems this afternoon, and they don't have all of those worked out. And so Jeff and Jennifer and the whole family, if you're listening, our thoughts and prayers are with you tonight, and just wish you the best. Sure do, don't we, Mark?
Yeah, and Jeff, I know you're listening, so our thoughts and prayers are with you and your dad and your family, and you just know that we're thinking about you, and we'll hope you're back here real soon.
Yep. And hey, guys, tonight, when we open the phone lines, now it's going to be later in the show, up toward the top of the hour before we open them up, but you be getting your questions ready for our guest tonight, because we're going to have a giveaway that is going to be based on those calls. And so somebody's going to win a couple of good prizes here tonight. I tell you what, I love giving other people stuff away. It's just, it is amazing. But one other thing that we do want to cover is we are sponsors of the Pound the Ground. That's going to be October the 5th and 6th. Actually, the meet and greet will be the 4th, but Pound the Ground up there in New York. And tell us a little bit about that whole sponsor package that we're part of, Mark.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that, Loy. We worked with Pound the Ground with Nathan Matthews and that team, and Garrett, Metal Detectors, Calico, and all four of us are all going to get together, and we have it set up now that if somebody wants to get their photo or an autograph from one of the Garrett personalities, we're going to have a place set up where you can do that in front of a logoed screen with all of our logos on there. And when you come up to do that, you will get entered into a contest for a really nice prize package that includes a Garrett detector, a grave digger shovel, a Brute Magnetics magnet fishing kit. Gary Pinta, who has mydetecting.com, is going to include a diorama, one of his beautiful miniature dioramas, into that package. So everybody gets entered when you come up, and then you'll also get a book. It's a $15 coin hunting book that was written by Charles Garrett, and Calico has graciously agreed to get everybody a copy of the book. So you get your picture taken, you come up, and then what do they do with the picture, Lloyd? Once they get their picture taken.
Well, after you go up there, and that background, I haven't seen it yet, but I would love to see that because it has the Garrett logo, the Pound the Ground logo, the RELICS Radio logo, and the Kellyco logo. I wish that they had 4 of those made where all of us could get one of them, but I don't guess that they do. But anyway, you're going to stand up there, and you'll either get your picture made with KG and Ringy or Gypsy or Jocelyn or the Hoover Boys. When you do, post it on the RELICS Radio Facebook group page, and then you're going to be entered to win another prize after Pound the Ground, and we'll be letting you know about the details on that a little later, won't we?
That's right. That's what we're going to do. So you'll literally have 2 chances to win a really nice prize. One, you'll be able to win the prize package there at Pound the Ground, which will be announced on Sunday. You'll get a really nice photo taken with one of those personalities, and then you'll have a chance to win something by posting your photo on RELICS Radio. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Giveaways. I tell you what, that's why you need to be part of the RELICS Radio Facebook group page, because we're posting something numerous times during the week, and you sure don't want to miss it. And you also want to follow us here on Spreaker, because you don't want to miss a show. We've got a big giveaway that we're going to give away toward the last Thursday of this month. And that's going to be a Simplex Plus that we're giving away. I'm not going to tell you who the guest is going to be. But you know what, guys? That's next week, isn't it, Mark?
That's next week, Lloyd. I was going to tell you that.
Oh, man, this month, this whole year has really flown by. It really has. But I'm looking forward to tonight's show. This is going to be one of a show that is just surrounded by fun. That's a key word tonight. And no, that's not associated with any giveaway or anything, but it's just going to be FUN. It's going to be fun all the way through. Who we got tonight, Mark?
Lloyd, I'm excited to bring our guest in. He's a well-known detectorist up in Canada. He's celebrating his 25th year in metal detecting. He has a YouTube channel that he'll talk about, and he has some amazing stories. So let me go ahead and bring him in. Tonight we're going to have Daniel Popcan Dan McDonnell. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, how are you doing?
We are doing great tonight. It's good to have you here.
Greetings from Canada, man.
You know, we've been very fortunate, Dan, to have several people from Canada, and you guys just have a super group of detectorists up there, don't you?
We really do. You know what? Before I mention some names, I just wanted to say quickly, all the positive thoughts and prayers to Jeff's family and his father. All right.
Yeah.
Got to get that. That absolutely. That's very important to stay first. Secondly, I'll just tell you quickly. I got to clear the air here. I have a very strong feeling that Redbeard Relic Hunter DJ is going to call the show later, and he's gonna tell you guys that I'm not wearing pants, but I am wearing pants. All right, just want to get that out of the way. I know this guy. He's going to call in.
Well, I'm gonna call immigrations and customs, and I'm going to tell him not to allow his call to go through.
That's right. Get him stopped at the border next time.
I tell you what, I can't wait to hear some of the stories that you guys, because I've watched the videos, and you guys are a hoot, and I think that that's a lot of your appeal, is that you guys just go out there and have fun, don't you?
Yeah, you know, it's like wow, it's almost like what are the 2 guys on the movie Dumb and Dumber when they became best friends? That's kind of like what DJ and I are, Redbeard and I. We met and we're like, oh no, now it's just going to get really silly.
Well, people love it, so I wouldn't change anything. I mean, that as I said, that's part of the appeal. But back to you for just a minute. I know that Mark made mention there a while ago that this is your 25th year. How did you get started in this?
Well, it goes way back. I'm gonna be straight honest with you guys. I'm 49 years old, and I feel like I'm a teenager. No, I wish. But in 1980, I went to see a movie. I was 10 years old, and it was called Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I sat in the movie theater. I was 10 years old, and I watched this guy, this treasure hunter, and I was like, I want to be him. I want to be him so bad. And then I realized later on, I'll kind of fast forward, that I can do that kind of stuff without the tarantulas and the big boulders rolling at me. I could just walk around the field with a metal detector. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But I got so that was when I was 10, and I caught the bug then, and I never actually pulled the trigger on buying a metal detector until I was 24 years old in 1994. In between that whole time, there was a thing I did. It was sports. I was really heavily into baseball and hockey. I was very competitive with that. And then girls came on the scene. It was like, oh boy. And it's funny because then the whole idea of metal detecting, treasure hunting kind of got put on the back burner. And it wasn't until I hit almost my mid-20s when I said, I moved from Montreal to Ontario, and I said, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to pull the trigger. I got to get a metal detector, and I got to start doing this. I've been putting it off way too long. And that was when I started in 1994.
Now, do you remember your very first find or finds? when you going back that far, can you remember what you found the first time?
I remember my most significant, I found a lot of trash. I mean, they didn't have pinpointers back then, and it was tough, and I watched, there's still some guys these days that won't use pinpointers. I don't know how they do it, but I found a lot of trash back then. I remember my first few real amazing finds were I found a buckle, a belt. It was a buckle, which I realized was a part of a horse tack, a buffalo nickel, and the really cool thing, it was like a hand carved silver dove, and it wasn't big. It fit in the palm of your hand, but it was really heavy, and it was absolutely stunning. And where I found it, I knew it had to be at least 200 years old, and that was probably, for many years, that was my best find, because when I started, I was not a good detectorist. I really wasn't.
Well, the fact that you still remember those, it just shows you, how significant it was in your life in terms of getting into the hobby and using your first detector. And speaking of that, do you remember what your first detectors were? I mean, I know you and I talked but can you tell everybody what your progression of detectors was that you went through?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I started out, I didn't buy my first detector. I used to rent it from a rental store. They used to rent equipment out, like different things. And I believe this metal detector they had was for finding property stakes and things like that. So I would go in and I would rent it off the guy for a month. He rented it to me really cheap. And this went on month after month. I'd come back and say, I want to rent it again. And finally, the one day I walked in and he looked at me and he goes, buddy, just give me $50 and leave with it already. And so I did. So I gave him $50 and it was mine. And it was a white, I don't remember what the model number was, but it had a big blue box and an old style curved handle, and it had a big white UFO coil at the bottom. and it wasn't bad. It was actually not bad. It was with that I found the buckle and the buffalo nickel. So after that, I realized I wanted to move on maybe to something a little bit better. And I remember I moved on to it was a Fisher, I think it was a 1236X or something like that. And it had a big honking box on it, but the cool feature was it had that pinpointer on it. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so that was, I found the silver dove with that, and I thought that was really cool. And it's funny. Yeah, I'll get into that later. I got so many stories that intertwine. So I had that for many years. And then, let's see, when I met my wife, it was a little while later, I finally decided it was starting to give me problems. And so I figured it was time maybe to upgrade. So I moved on to a Technetics Delta 4000. And I really liked that detector. That was a nice little detector, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I had that for a few years, and then but for many, many years, since I was in my early 20s, I had a book from Charles Garrett. And I couldn't remember the name of the book, but it was all about treasure hunting. I think it was called How to Find Buried Treasure or something like that. And I always remember the Garrett name. And I said, I want to buy a Garrett detector. So eventually I went out and I pulled the trigger, and I got a Garrett Ace 250. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I had that up till 2016, I think it was. And a great detector. I can't complain. But I did notice that I started gravitating towards the water more. And when you go into the water with that detector, I can only go up as far as the box.
Right.
But when you go into some lakes and the waves start, and all of a sudden you're trying to lift up the box so the wave doesn't, and I'm like, this is not right. So I started to do a little more research, and the AT Pro, I looked and I said, the lights shine down, and I heard the angels go, oh, and I realized that was the one.
So, that was my first detector.
Yeah, so it was actually Jack Summers, Radio World, where I bought it from. And so I had that for right up until midsummer this year. And that detector, I'm telling you, that has made its money back a dozen times over. But then, like everyone else, I started to get the Equinox 800 bug, and I'm like, oh wow! And so I did wind up getting a Equinox 800, and I feel bad because the AT Pro is still sitting on the side, and I use the 800 mainly now. But I went camping just a few weeks ago for 2 weeks up north, and I brought the AT Pro with me camping, and all I did was water detecting with it, underwater, like with weight belts and snorkels right up past my head. And that machine she sung like a canary. And I pulled 6 rings in total out of the beaches from there. And I walked back, and I'm like, I'll never lock you in a closet again. I felt so bad.
Yeah.
So currently that's where I'm at right now at the Equinox 800.
Okay. When we come back after this commercial break, I'm going to ask you about the settings on the AT Pro, but we'll be right back. We are very excited to announce that Kellyco Metal Detectors is now the major sponsor of RELICS Radio. Kellyco Metal Detectors has provided customers with the best metal detectors and accessories for over 60 years, and they offer the largest selection and best deals on metal detectors guaranteed. Kellyco Metal Detectors features only the very best of treasure hunting equipment that'll help you find coins, rings, jewelry, and relics both on land and underwater. From gold pans to metal detectors, they carry the hottest selling products on the market. And Kellyco is just a phone call away, before, during, or after the purchase. You can call them at 855-246-2586 or visit the website at www.kellycodetectors.com. And we already mentioned about the giveaway of the Simplex next week, and that is going to be Kellyco that is doing that for us, and we certainly do appreciate them doing that. And Dan, back to your AT Pro that you were talking about.
Yep.
I've got 2 AT Pros. I've got the Equinox. I've got all kind of detectors, but I just keep going back to that AT Pro. I think all around it was probably one of the most innovative detectors that was ever designed, and I use mine in the water all the time. But what I'm interested to know is what settings do you use with your AT Pro, or does it depend on where you're hunting at?
Not really. I'm a turn on and go kind of guy, and I always had it set in the pro mode.
Okay.
And I was just like turn it on. I would, I just had I would just pretty much turn on and go. It was funny because when I hunt with DJ, he was always pressing all kinds of buttons. I turn on, I start walking. He's like, well, "Aren't you setting it up?" And I'm like, "I'm set."
Well, what I was getting at though was I know that on mine, I don't run the iron audio. I run the iron disc, but I run it at 0, and that way you hear everything. And I love, the way that you hear that iron in the background. You know, if you're hunting an old site, and obviously if you're hunting in the water, you're probably going to dig everything anyway.
Yeah, and I always had mine set at like 32.
Yeah.
And I found it was a pretty good balance there. So
yeah.
Well, you know what's funny is I'm like you, Dan, and also Loy. I love using the Equinox, but I will never get rid of my AT Pro. And I'll tell you one other thing: when I do a seated hunt, a competition hunt, I always go back to the AT Pro or the AT Max. I just love using those machines. For those hunts. I'm so familiar with the settings and the tones with those machines, and I love using that in that setting. But I'll use it sometimes as a backup, even just out in a field or something like that.
Yeah. It's just the Garrett name for so many years. I've been synonymous with, and I've known it growing up. And when I got the 800, I just felt like I was cheating. I always felt like Charles Garrett was looking down at me, saying, "How can you do this?" So I try to treat them both equal, and I really like each of them for the different settings they have and what they each have to offer.
And, that's the deal. No one detector does everything. And I will hunt a site with one, and I like to do my scouting with the AT Pro. I like to do my cleanup with the Equinox. And, if I'm doing Civil War hunting, I like to use the GPX 4500 Pulse machine. It just depends on what you're doing. I mean, but if I just had to have one, I'm honest, it would be the AT Pro. I'm like Mark. I'm never going to get rid of it. What kind of hunting do you prefer? Do you prefer to co and shoot, or relics, or water, or what?
It's funny. I started out for so many years. I was a parks guy. I used to go to parks a lot. I used to do some beaches, and then I started getting into. I started enjoying like some relics and things like that. It always goes back to DJ for some reason. When I met DJ, he was like, "You got to get out of the parks, and you got to get onto the permissions and onto the relics and the old stuff." And that was 4 years ago, I think now, and I haven't looked back. I love searching for, especially my favorite is I go looking for War of 1812 stuff. That's my number one thing. But yeah, I do fields. I love I do beaches. I love the water. I really do love the water a lot.
Well, now, I've just finished watching one of your videos, and I hope everybody else at the end of this program will go and watch some of them. But you hunt this beautiful old home in an area that I don't know how old it is, but when we were talking, you mentioned that you've got some permissions there. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you got those permissions and some of the finds you're making there? Because that looks like a great place to hunt.
Yeah, and it's a very small town, and I think it was established. Some of the farms were 1820. The town started to get together about 1840. So a lot of the houses I'm touching are 1850 to 1880. And it all started out. It was actually my son's friend's father. I was talking to him one day. He came to pick up his son from my house and where they live, and he said, "You should come up and detect my brother's house." 1890s, and I'm like, okay, for sure. So he said, "Just go tell him that I told you you're going on his property." I'm like, oh boy. So he gave me the number, and I called him. He said, "Yeah, you come on up." So I went up and I started detecting. It was so funny. I start detecting his property, and I pull out a beautiful pocket watch, and he's super excited. And I said, "Listen, Paul," I said, "you're the landowner." I said, "Do you want this?" And he's like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You invited me." And then all of a sudden the neighbor next door comes walking over, and he's looking around. He goes, "Do you want to detect my property?" I'm like, yeah. I find out that he used to have a store from 1850 on his front lawn where his property is. So I start detecting his, and wouldn't you believe it? I found a silver pocket watch, and all these I have on video, by the way. in his backyard. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I couldn't not give it to him. So I said, you know what? Here you go. So, and while I was doing this, the guy on the first property I was at, he ran down around the corner and told this woman who owns the general store from 1850 that's like boarded up now, but the property is still there with the store. She says, you got to come over and see this guy. Next thing you know, she's putting me on her property, and it just went out of control. So, but that was last year. So up to date now, I have 11 permissions in this little town, and this one, and it's all. It's funny because the woman with the general store, she's the one that she goes to the other people's houses and says, and she's kind of like the town. She's almost like the unofficial mayor of the town. And she'll go to someone's house and she'll knock on the door and she'll say, my friend here with the metal detector is going to detect your property. and they don't even really have a say. And I'm like, I don't know if this is proper etiquette. She goes, just turn it on and go. And I kind of look at the landowner. I'm like, is this okay? And she goes, oh, I guess I don't have a choice, you know? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to let one point escape before you get too far going. But, a lot of times when we find these things, we're so excited about finding them and we kind of want to keep them. But you gave that first pocket watch away, and that opened up a whole network for you, didn't it?
It really did. And it just shows that, I've always said this, you gotta be upfront and you gotta be kind and honest to the people who are giving you the permission. And I when I go onto the permissions, I always say, I'm a coins guy. I will keep all the coins. You don't have a decision in that. And they're like, okay, I don't care about coins. I said, but anything I find that is a relic, if it's something to do with your family history, something to do with the property, you have first crack at it. And it seems to work very well. And a lot of people say, I don't care about what I got on the property. I really don't. So you can have everything. Yeah. But some people, I'll pull some up and they're like, oh my gosh, this must have been my grandfather's or something. So I'll tell you very quickly, the general store, the woman, it was her great-great-grandfather's general store. And so DJ and I were on the property, and wouldn't you know, DJ dug up a token with the store, and it used to be a hotel before that, with the name of the hotel it was a hotel store on the token. And we presented it to the woman. We presented it to the woman, and the woman had no idea these even existed. Wow. And it was such an amazing moment. And and it's like, so it just opened up a world up there. And it's funny. So I said, I have to give back as a thank you to the town. And I'm like, and I spoke to the woman. I said, how can I do that? And she said to me, she goes, you're a singer, right? I said, yeah. She said, do you sing worship songs? I said, yeah, I was a worship leader in my church for 15 years. She said, then you're going to come sing at our church one Sunday morning then. That's how you're going to pay us back. And I said, it's a deal. So it's one of the Sundays coming up probably before the end of October, I got to go sing at their church for them up there.
That is a great story. It really shows the creativity that you're using when you're interacting with those people. You never know how something's going to play out. And if you're willing to engage with people and talk to them and just sit down and get to know them and spend time, then you learn things like that, and you never know what's gonna come out of that, or the friendships that you're going to make, the people that you're going to know. And, inviting you to lunch in the middle of your hunting in their yard. Yeah. I mean, it's just great. I love those stories.
And it's funny. It's one of the toughest things to do is to walk up to somebody's house who you don't know, ring their bell, and say, hey, how are you doing today? Do you mind if I dig 100 holes on your front lawn? And you'll be happy about it. It's the toughest thing. It's one of the toughest sales pitches I think that's out there.
Yeah.
But it's in the approach, and it's how you just got to be honest and, let them know what your intentions are.
But it sure does help whenever you've got an advocate that works with you. And whenever you are kind to the landowner and give something back that is part of the history of their land or of their family, or you give something back to the community, it just opens so many doors. I mean, just so many doors up.
It really does. Hey, Seven, I'm going to tell you one quick thing that has to do with that video and the property. The woman invited me back in October when all the corn and their beans are gone off the land. And she said, you have the free run of all the land. She said, and my mother owns a property down the road from 1820, a farm. You can detect there. She said, but I want to ask you, she goes, my grandfather, his horse died, and he buried, this was a long, long time ago. I can't remember, it was in the 20s. And he buried the horse out in the field somewhere with all the, like the horse tack and the bit and everything on it. She said, I would really love for a keepsake to find the horse tack and the bit and get all that stuff back as a keepsake. Can you do that for me? I said, no problem. I said, but you know, when I find the horse bit, I'm going to find the horse. And she goes, yeah, I know. So it was I said, you realize there's going to be a full horse skeleton there, eh? She goes, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was an odd request, but I said I'll do it for her, you know?
Yeah, we did that in Virginia this last year. Doug got a good, strong signal with a GPX 4500 and got down, and it was a horse that still had the shoes and everything on it. Hey, we need to take another commercial break, and we'll be right back. You know, T-shirts are a perfect way to get your brand recognized, whether you're talking about a business, a club, a sports team, your YouTube channel, or whatever. But you may have asked, where can I get quality, affordable shirts on demand? Well, I'm glad you asked. RELICS RADIO uses DetectTees.com for all of our T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and hoodies. That's DetectTees.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie make quality shirts that last, they ship quick, and best of all, they're affordable. So if you need customized apparel, then go to DetectTees.com and be sure and tell them that RELICS Radio sent you. And I saw while we were running that commercial that Mark Hoover put in there that it's about time for those RELICS Radio hoodies. And it is. It's just around the corner. The cool weather will start coming up. But you can buy those T-shirts anytime. And, you know, you can still use the cooling towels right now. But, by the way, tonight's giveaway, once we open up the phone lines and you begin to ask your questions, part of that giveaway is going to be one of those cooling towels from DetectTees.com. Go ahead, Mark. I think you had another question.
I do. I'm going to ask him in just a minute about Radio World and some of the events that you're going to, Dan. But I just wanted to tell you both that we were successful in having Canadian Immigrations keeping DJ Dowling from calling in. But he's messaging me now, and he said he's not wearing pants, you know. So DJ's already messaging me. So just so you know that. Anyway. We'll let him in later on, but yeah, we wanted to get in and ask you a little bit about, you know, we had Jack Summers on from Radio World, and you know there's an event coming up here pretty soon, and you've been to some past events. Are you going to this event that they're going to have? I believe it's going to be with MindLab, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's MindLab. MindLab's going to sponsor this, and it's on Saturday. This Saturday coming, the 21st. It's called Unearthed 2019. And it's a MindLab-sponsored event. It's at Woodbine Beach in Toronto. And, you know, if anybody's listening who's in the area and wants to go out, it is so much fun. It's a big seated hunt on the beach. But even more than the hunts itself is the people that go to it. And when you can get a group of like-minded people who you watch on YouTube and follow them on Facebook, and you get them all together in the same area, it's so much fun. I feel like a kid in a candy store when I go there, and I just love to chat with everybody and everybody who's new to the, who's new to the hobby. They come out, and you know, we treat them like family. It's really, really amazing.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to coming up there one time. I've been looking at it. I've never been able to schedule in and work it out, but I absolutely had plans to come up there and detect with you guys up there, and it's on my bucket list. I told you this, to hunt with you and DJ sometime, but definitely want to come up and be a part of one of those Radio World events. That sounds just like a lot of fun. So
for sure, Mark, you have to beware though if you come up and hunt with us. There's grubs and worms are flying left and right. You know, whenever we find something that's living in the ground, we usually wind up throwing it at each other for some reason.
No worries. For the stuff we deal with down here, no worries.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention one more quick thing with regards to events.
Yeah.
We have, I don't know if you've ever heard of Matt Thompson. Matt Thompson lives up in between Toronto and Montreal, up near Ottawa way. And you know Eric and Lori Gagne, right? From
Right.
RELICS,
Yeah.
RELICS from the RELICS, I'm having a...
No, from Knock to Macro.
No, Lori Gagne is up in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, and
she was on our show at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are. It looks like they're putting together an event, possibly it's either for next spring or next fall. And I watch these guys, especially Matt Thompson. They do a lot of metal detecting in fields and stuff, and they pull out beautiful relics and coins. And he wants to get he's trying to get an event going off the ground up there for the springtime, and it is just going to be amazing. And the response he's already got, and he's like, well, I got to do it now. So I just wanted to put the word out there that, keep an eye out for it. It's going to probably start coming up online, maybe just after Christmas or something. And he's probably going to do it in the spring. He said the spring or the fall, and it's going to be a really great event. He doesn't have a name for it yet or anything. It was just a concept a few days ago, but it looks like it's already got some legs to it. So.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. I think if you wouldn't mind mentioning to him when he's ready, we'd love to have him come on to the show and talk about the event. I think that'd be a great way to get the word out there about it. We'd love to have him on here.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. He's a how can I put it? He's a quiet. He's you ever heard the term quiet but walks with a big stick?
Yeah,
that's exactly how he is. He doesn't. He's a very quiet, gentle soul. But this guy finds amazing stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm interested to know, I think I might know, but how'd you get the name Pop Can Dan?
Okay, this is a funny story. So there was an event coming up in Toronto. I think it was 2016. It was on Toronto Island. Jack and Radio World were putting it together. And it was Garrett sponsored, and they had KG and Ringy were coming up. And I happened to be on Facebook, and I mentioned something to KG. I just made a comment on one of his things, and he commented back to me, and this was the first time I'd ever really spoke to him. So I started chatting with him back and forth, and then all of a sudden my wife cut in the Facebook chat from some other, her tablet, and she typed in, she said, George, she goes, everybody has a nickname for metal detecting but Dan. What? Give him a nickname. And he typed right back, and he goes, well, his name is Pop Can Dan. He just, he responded back, within 10 seconds. And he goes, well, his name is Pop Can Dan. And I'm like, I love it. I find a lot of pop cans. That's the ironic thing. Yeah. And I said, yeah, and it just stuck. And people started calling me Pop Can Dan. So I went to this event that they were going to. And when I got there, Jack Summers says to me, he goes, you're Pop Can Dan? Yeah. And it just started to get around. And KG and Ringy were there, and I started chatting with them, and I said, KG, a few months ago, you gave me my nickname. I said, Pop Can Dan. He goes, I remember that, and it was so much fun. And so that's how I got my nickname, yeah.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah, it is.
And I just thought it had to do with maybe that you had found so many pop cans or what have you. But to have KG give you that makes it even more special, doesn't it?
I almost felt like I was knighted. Like I was on one knee, and he took the sword and tapped them on both my shoulders and said, I hereby knight you, Pop Can Dan, and I was so excited.
Yeah, you are christened Pop Can Dan, yeah. Yeah.
It's like I was just baptized in water. I came up, I'm like, yes, I'm a new person.
Yeah. And I've got your YouTube channel and your Facebook and all of that in the description if you guys are looking. But what do you call your YouTube channel?
Well, I'm a really creative guy, so I called it Pop Can Dan. So, yeah, it's just Pop Can Dan. You type it in 3 words, and you'll it's your gateway to silliness. I'll put it that way. Yeah. I think today was my 74th video I put up. So wow. I'm around 74. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is, but it's a lot of fun. And it's funny because I think I just said to Mark when we were talking before the music started, the beginning of the show, I got into this because I love making the videos and I love putting out a positive message. And I always said, I don't care if I have 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. I just love what I do, and I don't ever want to change that.
Yeah. Well, hey, before I forget, I know you told me that you taught DJ everything he knows about metal detecting. I just want to know, how did you guys meet? Because you guys do so much together. How in the world did you meet DJ?
Okay, well, I had a permission down in this field, and I was finding War of 1812 coins and relics, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is, and I just felt this overwhelming sensation that I had to share it with somebody. And that was when I realized I was a lone wolf pretty much, up until then. And I said, I got to share this with somebody. And so I went back on Facebook and I'm scrolling through and I'm looking through and I kept seeing DJ's name. And I talked to him for at least a year before that, just on Facebook, chatting with him. And I never met him. So I said, okay, hey, I private message. I said, are you interested in coming down, meeting? We'll go down to the spot. So he said, sure, yeah, that sounds great. So I told him where to meet me, and he comes down in this big white van, and I'm pretty sure it said free candy on the side. And it looked very sinister, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So, and I told my wife before I left the house, I said, so I'm going to meet this strange guy down, and we're going to walk 15 minutes into the field alone, and he's going to pull up in a big white van. And my wife said, well, it was nice knowing you. So anyways, he shows up and we, get out, shake his hand, meet him, and we start walking into the fields, and he didn't abduct me or anything, and we've been best friends ever since that day. And here's the ironic thing. We went into that field, and I found a coin immediately. I think it was 1813 or something. And he's like, this is the real deal. I said, yeah. And wouldn't you know it, 5 minutes later, he pulls up a coin. Now, I am not a member of the 1700s Club. I am not. And he pulls up I think it was like a 1790-something coin right in front of me. And I'm like, how dare you? I invited you out here, and this is the pay I get back, So, but you know what? It just became such an amazing friendship from there. And my permissions are his permissions are my permissions. He'll call me and he'll say, why aren't you going over to this permission? I said, it's because it's yours. He said, it's not yours, it's ours. Yeah. So that's kind of how we work. And we just realized we're both really silly guys. And we just started having a lot of fun. And it was funny, it was that day down in the field that he said to me, why aren't you filming this? And I said, well, what do you mean filming? He goes, make a video. And I said, do people make videos? Because I never really, I knew people made videos. I watched the Hoover Boys and a few, but I was like, never even thought about it. I said, I don't know. He goes, you are the perfect guy to be making videos, man. He goes, you got to do that. So I said, okay. So I started making a few videos, and then he said, hey, well, let's do some together. And then from there, it just turned into a, I'm surprised the police don't show up when we do a video.
Yeah, and if you guys that are listening, if you haven't watched any of their videos, you talk about a fun time. They have a lot of fun. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what they do. And, you said he came up in that sinister-looking van, but he didn't abduct you. Well, in his own way, he did abduct you because y'all are inseparable now, aren't you?
Yeah, and I will tell you this. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. You made a joke and you said, I taught him everything he knows. You know what? He taught me worlds of stuff I could never repay him for. He really opened my eyes to the world of metal. I thought I knew metal detecting before, but no. Once I met him and, we started getting it, and he just showed me so much different things. And I'm like, man, I could never repay him for that.
Yeah. I want to get into some of the treasure that you two have pursued, but we're too close to a commercial break. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way, and we'll do it right after this. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on RELICS Radio. And as most of you guys know by now, I am the producer of one of the producers, because I've got Jeff Looper doing it now. He filled in for me this last Monday night whenever I took off a night. And we work with the legend, Butch Holcomb, and it's on every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern right here on Spreaker. And we were wanting to ask you about some of the treasure that you and DJ have pursued in your career together.
Yeah, well, we've gone around looking for many different things. Do you want me to talk about the buried gold, the legend of this buried gold that we were looking for, that kind of brought us to this same spot?
Yes, I can't wait.
Is that
okay?
If that's the one you want to hear, I'll definitely tell you that.
That's the one.
So, I was talking to DJ and this was only, I think it was last year. We were chatting about it. It was like last summer, and we talked about different locations and places we've gone, and I said to him, there's this gully where this guy during the War of 1812 had originally buried a stone-baked kettle full of gold, and I think it was $16,000 worth of gold back in 1812. Would probably be worth a lot of money today. So, and I'm talking about it. I said, and I used to go looking for this. I said, but I ran into a bit of a problem there, and he's looking at me weird, and he goes, "What kind of a problem?" And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I told him about this gully. And he's like, "Okay, go on." And when I told him what had happened to me, it was kind of like almost a paranormal experience where I literally had a voice whisper in my ear while I was detecting, and it whispered right in my ear, and it said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I heard it clear as day, and I jumped. My detector went flying, everything, and I turned around. I thought it was maybe like a homeless guy in the bushes, and I had a fist in my hand. I was going to punch him, and there was nobody there, and I was like, oh, and I was so shaken up, and I finally regained my composure. And next thing you know, I go a few more feet, and this big old dead tree that had been there probably hundreds of years decided it was time it was going to fall, and it fell right not near me, but it fell the other way. But it was probably about 50 feet away from me, and it made such a loud cracking noise that the only thing I guess I could say is I think I had to do my laundry that day, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, so I was telling this to DJ, and DJ said to me, he goes, "You are lying." I said, "Why would I be lying about that?" He said, "Because," "you're not going to believe this." And then he starts to tell me he went down there with his son 10 years ago and had almost the exact same experience. He kept hearing whispers in his headphones, and he thought he was having a problem. And he was looking for the same treasure I was looking for. And then he actually witnessed a tree with branches start to break right in front of him. Like they just started snapping, right? And he's like, "Okay, I'm out of here." And he grabbed his kid and they left. And he told me it was, I think he said it was about 6 years ago when that happened. He said he has not been back since. And I said, "Well, we need to go back there." I said, "Why don't we do a Halloween special and go back there?" And we did. We each made a video out of it. And we went back there. It was close to Halloween, and it was all fun. We were joking around, and when we got down there, it became real. And both of us just the fun time was over. And when we both walked to the spot where it had happened, we didn't say to each other where to go, and we both wound up right at the same spot. I went around one way, and he came the other way. And he looked at me, and he pointed at the tree. I said, "That's exactly where I had it." And what are the odds of that? It was just so bizarre. And I mean, to make a long story short, we never found the treasure, but we had a great time doing it, you know?
At least part of the time you did. What kind of treasure? Tell us the backstory on it.
It was a guy, he was a dispatch rider during the War of 1812. And he had a lot of land and everything, and he was very rich, and he was an older man, and he had all of his money in the form of gold, and he put it all in a stone baked kettle, and he buried it on the bank of a creek, and he buried it in 1821. Sorry, and 3 days later, he fell really ill. And he was on his deathbed, and I think he had 3 sons, and they all came to his bedside, and they were all saying, "Hey, I'm really sorry you're dying, Dad. Where did you hide the treasure?" You know, and they kept it, and he never told them. And because I read it from 2 of the sons that wrote a kind of a biography later on, I actually read this biography, and they said that we never found out where it was ever hidden.
Huh.
And so he died. He died the next day and never told them. So I know a few people know about it, but not a whole lot of people. It's just one of those things you really have to go find the right do the right research to get on the trail of the thing.
Oh man!
Now, when you were out there, Dan, I know you didn't find the treasure, but did you find anything while you were out there? Anything unusual, or did you find anything at all?
I found an easy way how to fall into the dirtiest creek in Canada. I did do that, and I almost got that on video. It's quite funny. But no, we found a lot of it. Unfortunately, over the years, a lot of homeless people and vagrants and drug users go down to that gully, and it's just become an absolute mess. You know, there's like tarp cities down there, and it's almost where we've kind of given up down there because there's so much garbage down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Hey, guys, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines, 270-495-0315, and we want you to call in with a question for Dan here tonight, and also realize that we're going to give a couple of prizes away to a certain caller, and Mark, you can shoot me a number on that right now if you want to, and then we'll figure that out, or we'll name it at the end of it. Sometimes, like if we pick caller 2 after the second caller calls, then nobody else calls in, so we may wait a little bit longer to not do that. But we already do have a caller come in, and it's Michael Bowles. What's going on, Michael?
Just an average night for a Thursday.
Yeah.
Just a quick question for Dan. What's the one thing that sparked your interest? Because I came in late on the show, but what was the one thing that sparked your interest with the metal detecting, with the hobby?
Yeah, for sure, man. Hey, how are you, Mike? Everything good?
Good, Dan.
Right on. Good. Phil, thanks for calling in, man, for sure. Definitely, I think I mentioned it right out of the gate at the beginning of the show. I was 10 years old, and I went to the movie theater, and I watched the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones. And I watched this guy go in and snatch this golden idol, and he ran with all the spiders and the boulder rolling down behind him. And and I said, I want to be him. I really want to be him, you know? So I don't have a fedora and a whip that I have behind closed doors or anything, but I do have a metal detector. So it was pretty much that's what got me going on it from when I was a kid, but it wasn't for another 14 years before I actually bought my first metal detector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, free up the lines to let somebody else call in.
Okay. Appreciate
Mike,
it.
Thanks for calling, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, great to have you call in. And I did throw you a number over there, so
I got it.
You do have a number. Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
And I wanted to segue into something else, Dan. You were talking about what happened up there in that spot that you and DJ were looking for that treasure.
Yeah.
Now, you made a trip recently to Massachusetts, and I'm saying it because Lloyd can't, but you made a trip to Massachusetts, and tell everybody what you were doing there and why you were there.
Yeah, okay, very quickly, like Lloyd doesn't say Massachusetts. Last summer I was with Gary Drayton, and I was trying to get him to say Bahamas because he can't say it. He always says Bahamas, and I said, "So Gary, you know you were down in Nassau, right?" And he looked at me and goes, "You want me to say it, don't you?" And it was just a funny joke, and he finally said it for me, and all was well in the world. But so I made a trip down to Massachusetts 2 weekends ago. I had the opportunity. I have relatives down there in Massachusetts, in Boston, Cape Cod, all around that area, and one of them is actually a paranormal research investigator on this paranormal research team, and I've always had the interest in the paranormal and ghosts, and I love watching Bigfoot videos. I watch crazy stuff. So she sent me a message, and she said, "Listen, I know you and your daughter watch all those ghost shows and stuff. I'm going to give you the opportunity to come down here to the Lizzie Borden house in Fall River, Massachusetts, and spend the evening with us doing a paranormal investigation overnight in the house." She said, "We've got the house to ourselves for the entire night." And I said, "Let me just fill up the tank and I'm gone."
Oh,
and
man.
I went down there with my daughter. We drove down and we spent the Saturday night in this house. And I'm going to tell you this. I thought I knew the definition of scared. I was not even close. So I realized this was going to be my Halloween videos for this year. And I have so much footage. It became a 2-part video. I've almost finished editing them. And there were things that happened in that house that I cannot even explain. And I've got some of them actually on video too. And I can't wait to put the videos together for Halloween to come around. I'm going to put them out. And it was just an amazing experience. I mean, something I'll never forget. Yeah.
Yeah. We got a couple of callers on the line. The first one was Denny Morrison. Denny, what's your question for Dan?
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Denny, how are you?
Boo!
You see, now I got to do my laundry again. Danny, I got to do my laundry again now. You scared me.
Dan, I got a question. I was a little late also. What kind of metal detector did you first start with, and what do you use now?
Okay, I'll do a quick run through of them. 1994, I started with whites. I don't even remember the model number. I called it the white dinosaur. Then I went to a Fisher, I believe it was a Fisher 1236. I can't remember the number of it, but it was one of the first ones that had a pinpointer. I was super excited about having that. Then I went to a Technetics Delta 4000. Then I went to a Garrett Ace 250. From there, I went to a Garrett AT Pro, and now I'm a MindLab Equinox 800.
Very good. Good job.
Yeah. Thanks.
I thought maybe you was going to throw a Deus in there, too. Then you'd really be hunting.
Well, it's funny. Last year, just the hunt we had in June up here at Woodbine in Toronto, one of the guys has an XP Deus, and he came up, and he didn't even say anything to me. He just grabbed my MindLab out of my hand, and he threw the XP Deus, and he goes, "Try a real detector." So I started swinging it for a bit, and I was really impressed. I mean, I love the sound of that thing. When you get locked onto something, it lets you know. It just is like wham, wham, wham. Oh, I'm like, wow. Yeah. Just amazing. Yeah, I'm open to try any detector, really.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've had some great stories in the ORH. Bill put on here your site, and I'm definitely going to be watching your YouTube videos.
Oh, thanks, Denny. If you subscribe, man, just make a comment. I'd love to be able to chat with you too, for sure.
All right, I go by Ringfinder.
Oh, Ringfinder, nice, excellent.
Hey, thanks for the call.
Show, Loy. I'll get off here and let somebody else talk.
Okay, thanks for the call. And we have the one and only Redbeard. What's going on, DJ?
Oh boy.
No, you weren't supposed to tell him it was me. I was going to ask him if Redbeard was really as good looking as he looks on the camera.
Sorry, I'm not able to take your call right now.
I knew you would do that. I knew you would do it. So you covered it at the start, but you aren't wearing pants. Let's establish that. I guarantee I would put $100 on it. You're not wearing pants right now, sir.
See, you know what, Seven?
True.
He's probably looking in the window at me outside my house right now.
I got the photo proof. You owe me $100.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Hey, DJ, tell us your version of the place that you guys went to, and you hear people talking to you.
You know what? That was a terrifying experience. Even when we went back to film that, I was really uneasy at that spot. Because I tell you what, like Dan said, we've there's like, you know, crackheads and like homeless people that hang out there now, right? But it has a really incredible history at that part of our town. So, you know, I was originally trying to hunt War of 1812 stuff, and the way I got put onto the gold was actually Dan, his research, because the history books kind of, you know, aren't 1,000,000% right all the time, right? And his hard work actually really led us to the potential of this place. So I was looking for originally War of 1812's relics, because ton of history there. And I had my son, and I had my son, and he was a lot younger at the time, and I was down there, and I didn't have Bluetooth headphones or anything. I had wired-in headphones, and I had heard like voices in my head, like saying, like, "Get out!" Like this really creepy. And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, there's a crackhead around here." So I pull out my shovel, and I'm thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna have to bop someone in the face here." And I've got my son, and I'm keeping him within about 5 to 10 feet of me. I go, "Don't go any further away, just in case. I can hear someone down here, but I can't hear anything rattling or see anything moving around." Right. So I think it's weird, but I'm thinking to myself, how could this pick up any interference, because they're plugged in? It's not like it's, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, nothing. And so needless to say, at one point I hear, "Get out," really loud, and it sent chills down my spine, almost to the point where, I don't know if you've ever, I don't get scared very easily, but I was paralyzed in place. Like I had these chills down my spine, and I was almost frozen. And I look at my son, and I go, "Get over here." And he's like, what's going on? And the tree that he was standing at, the branches all start going and snapping in midair, about 6 of them. There was no wind or anything. And I grabbed him. I grabbed my detector and my shovel, and I dragged him out of there. And that was the last time I was there until I went with Dan. And luckily, nothing really happened when I was with Dan, other than I found a skull, which was a little creepy. But other than that, nothing really happened. But
it wasn't human, was it?
The numbers. No, luckily it wasn't. But it was. It's just one of those spots where you get that uneasy feeling when you're there. Mm-hmm. You feel like a heavy, weird feeling, I always think scientific explanations first, right? I'm not the type of guy that's, ghost this, ghost that. No, I think, okay, what could have caused that? What was this? What was that? You know what I mean? I'm a scientific kind of guy. I could not piece together any scientific explanations, which scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It really did. It was an experience.
we got another caller on. Why don't you just hang on there, DJ, because you guys are hunting partners, and we'll probably get to you and ask some more stuff as well. But Steve Slagle is on. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, how y'all guys tonight?
Oh, we're good. You got a question for Dan tonight?
I do. I just wondered, with the winters in Canada, do they have any downtime detecting, or do they just go into the States, or do you do something else during that time?
Oh, Steve, man, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So it's funny because it's almost like we consider, as it gets close, when it starts to get really cold up here and the ground freezes, those last few days, and it's funny, I this is how I see it. It's almost like, to the detectorists up here, it's like Christmas Eve at Walmart, where everyone's in a mad scramble trying to get everything they need. It's almost like collecting nuts for the winter if you're a squirrel, because once that ground freezes, it's game over. Now you're just sitting at YouTube watching videos for the winter, or you're doing research, and that's it. So we up here, we call it's hunting season and research season, or YouTube season, just watching. And once the ground freezes, man, it's game over. DJ and I went out a few times, and the ground was frozen, and here we were. We were on like a frozen tundra filming, and it looked like we were in the Antarctic, and we're trying to slam our shovels it's almost like we want to pour hot water on the ground to try to get a shovel through to, if you got a good signal. And it's just, it's so depressing. It really is. But it's bittersweet in a way, though, because it gives you time to research and to sit back and take in what you've done over the course of the hunting season, you know?
Well, I did wonder about that, and I thank you. I thank you for your answer on that.
Or once in a while, we're very lucky if I get to scoot down somewhere into the States. Like this year, I got to go down to Myrtle Beach, and in April, and we went down, and it was I went down for a week, and I was able to hunt the beaches till I was content. It was beautiful, and I went to Mexico. I think it was the year before that, and I got to hunt in the ocean for a little bit, and I found a beautiful gold ring. I was so excited. So yeah, the odd time you get to head down, and one quick thing just mentioned when I went down to Myrtle Beach, the people all along the way, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, they were so nice, man. Everyone along the way. I kind of went through Washington on the way down to. Everybody was so nice on the way down. I just had to say that, that it was such an amazing experience.
Well, that's great, man. Thank you so much for your answer.
Hey, thank you for the call, Steve. And that was a good question there. Let me ask to follow up on.
Wait, hold on, Lloyd.
Okay,
that was caller number 4.
I wasn't going to give that out till later, so we get some more calls in. But Steve,
never mind.
Steve, you are the winner tonight of the. I got to look back and see what we're giving away. Oh, we're giving away the Charles Garrett Cohen hunting book, and we're also giving away a RELICS Radio cooling towel. So you message us on RELICS Radio, or you message Mark Hoover or what have you, and we'll be sure and get that package out to you. And so the next calls will just be questions. We ain't gonna give you nothing. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lloyd. Sorry.
DJ, tell us about some of the more memorable hunts that you and Dan have had together, where you found something fantastic, or some other reason why it's kind of different than the others that you do.
DJ,
you know what?
It's got to be the best center, man.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you know what? That's probably the most legendary hunt I think that we have done together, and it seems like every time we hunt there. So it's the best center, which I've been a patient of for I don't even know how long now. But so they treat juvenile diabetes and type 1 diabetes and stuff like that, right? So it's an incredible center, and it's a really, really old place. I think it was 1830s, Dan, probably.
Yeah, 1830s.
Yeah, and the original owner was actually the agricultural minister of Canada. So I'd always been going there and getting looking at this place, just going, oh, this place is amazing. And eventually I ended up just pulling the trigger and getting permission to metal detect, right? So what Dan and I did, because he's got a heart of gold too, so what he did is he agreed with me to anything we found, we would donate to them because they're trying to build an addition, and we try to raise money for them to put towards that addition that they're trying to build. So we went there, and we were getting skunked for about 3 hours probably, not finding, found a couple of old things, but nothing incredible. And then, we both just started hitting incredibly old, hugely significant targets. And we pulled out so much that one day that we both just at the end of the day, were just like, this is like a record day. It ended us up on the news. It was just, what an incredible day it was. And it seems like every time we go back there, we're pulling out some amazing stuff. I don't think there's been a day, where we haven't pulled out, 2 or 3 old coins and a bunch of other relics.
Yeah, there's always one good zinger we get every time.
That's great. Hey, I need to ask you a quick question before we forget this. Several people have asked in the chat, are either one of you going to pound the ground in 2 weeks?
Dan, are you?
No, I'm camping at the time. I can't.
Yeah, and unfortunately something presented itself, but it was too late, so I'm not able to go. And I just got back from England, I think 2 days ago. From Detective Al. So unfortunately, it's not working with my schedule, but I wish I could, because there's going to be so many incredible people there. I'm so heartbroken that I won't make it, but
and that's why people are asking, because if you're going to be there, they certainly want to meet you. So I just wanted to see if y'all were going to go. So.
Yeah. And Michael Boyles is back on the line. Do you have another question, Michael?
Not really. Just wanted to let Dan and DJ know. Well, DJ probably already knows that we've talked before, but if you guys are ever down here in Florida, our peak season is typically when you guys are frozen up there. So if you're ever in Central Florida, definitely give us a holler, and us New Age Moonies and Mark, we can all get together and hit something up.
Did you have to call in because I message you every day asking when you're going to let me come down there? I harass him daily, going, "When are you going to let me come down there, man? Come on."
Well,
so now you can't decline the invitation. You can't.
There's your invite right there.
I know. Yeah. You know what? I tell you what, him and Dwight and them are just the nicest people in the world. So they're always so, open and welcome. And they're such incredible detectorists that's, if there's a group of people that I always make sure I make the time for and throw a supportive message or whatever, it's them. Because they are, in my opinion, when it comes to metal detecting.
Thank you.
Of course, buddy.
We actually had another question going back to your experience on that one spot, or maybe even somewhere else. When you were detecting out there, did you hear voice? I think, DJ, you said something about this. Did you hear voices in your headphones?
I did, yeah, and it was almost like a whisper. And I don't have great hearing. I've only got about 70 to 75% hearing. So for me to hear it, I guess it was stronger than a whisper, but it sounded like a whisper to me, but it just sounded like it to start just kept saying, "Go, get out." And I'm thinking I thought I was within an area of a crackhead that had, maybe a little shelter set up. And I'm going, "Oh my God, where's this coming from?" But I did actually hear stuff. And then the last time it was super loud. And like I said, just scared the bejesus out of me, basically.
And we've got a similar situation here in what we call 5 Mile Holler. And it's got a storied history. Well, the original land grant, the Revolutionary land grant, went to a man, and his son was captured by the Indians and killed and scalped and about half skinned and tied to a tree. And then there were some other things that happened on through the years at that same location. And I took 2 guys in there, didn't tell them any of the backstory of the place. And one of them was Okie out of Washington State, and he was up on a little rise, and there's nothing around it. And me and the other guy was down at the bottom, and he come running down. His eyes was the biggest saucers, and he said, "Somebody grabbed me." He said, "It's not something, it's somebody grabbed me by the shoulder and jerked me 2 or 3 times and almost jerked me down, And I told him, I said, "Well, there's some things that have happened here." And then I took another guy in, didn't tell him any of the backstory, and there's a portion of that where you actually drive through the creek bed for a ways. And we went to pull into the creek, and he went to saying, "Stop, stop, stop, stop." And I said, "What?" I said, "It's not that deep. You don't have to worry about it." He said, "No." He said, "Last night I had a dream, and I saw this place, and I saw us going into this water." And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yeah." So, I can't explain those things. I've never had anything there happen to me. But obviously, you guys had something happen to you independently at the same spot.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah, it was bizarre because the way I remember it is he was telling me the story, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and then I go, "That's weird. I had something weird happen to me too, and it scared me and this, that." And then after that, we put 2 and 2 together and realized that we were talking just about the same general area. And then when we actually went in there, I showed him, I go, "I think that's the tree." He goes, "Oh my, that's the tree that happened." I'm like, "Okay, well, this is weird." But then it made us that more curious of what it was. And if that was, was that the guy trying to get us off the set of his long lost treasure or what? Your mind gets racing. Like, is the treasure around here then? But I was on, I was on pins and needles down there, and I know Dan was uncomfortable too, but he was trying to put on, the happy face and stuff. But the whole time I just kept staring over my shoulder thinking, oh no, don't tell me something's going to happen here.
Yeah, you guys have got to come up with a name for that place like we have here. And actually, Tennessee Jeff gave the name of this place because he said it's 5 miles back in here, and I said, wow. And so afterward he would just say 5 Mile Holler, and that's just what we started calling it. I think Mark's got another question.
Yeah, so some of the people wanted to know if you guys do magnet fishing, and I started thinking, well, first of all, we'll let you answer that question, and then I've got a second part of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we definitely like to go magnet fishing. Anytime we show up to a spot and there's an old well, I go running right back to the vehicle. He goes, I know exactly where you're going. And yeah, I bring a magnet out and we stare down the well and see what we can find.
Now, have you ever found anything good doing that?
You know what? Yeah, I found quite a few good things in. I tell you what, I found a fair bit of old stuff in wells, but there was one time where I found a stolen ATM in a creek, and I thought it was the safe, and then I couldn't get it out of the thing, so the creek was shallow enough that I started to pull it out and realized it was a stolen ATM, and I was like, oh no. And then the cops the cops were questioning me, going, well, how did you know it was here, this and that? So I'm trying to explain what magnet fishing is to them. They're looking at me like I'm nuts. But that was Oshawa Creek, Dan. Of course.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Oh,
well, now you guys do ice fishing during the winter, right? I mean, you guys actually go out and cut a hole in the ice. By the way, I've never seen this before because we don't have ice in Florida, but you cut a hole in the ice and you fish down there, right? You guys do that?
I do, yeah.
I actually don't. I do a lot of fishing, but I don't ice fish. No, it's for some reason, I don't know. I never got into it.
Well, you can just take a magnet with you when you go ice fishing and do both, right?
You know what? People drop their keys and phones down there all the time.
Just tell them you're redneck fishing with a magnet during the winter.
Well, the redneck in me has always been a little apprehensive about going out on the ice and putting up a little tent, drilling a hole through the ice and building a little fire inside of it. I just don't think that's what I want to do.
Well, the problem is that you stick that magnet down there and you pull up something bigger than the hole. Now you're really in trouble.
Hey, it's the same thing if you put your fishing rod down there and you get a fish bigger than the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Wow. What do they do when they get a fish that's too big?
I see them in panic trying to chisel around to make the hole bigger.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, you keep an axe and you try and cut the hole a little bigger with a hatchet.
Well, a fish is not perfectly round, so you'd only have to cut on opposite ends of the hole to kind of get him out, I guess. Hey, what's up? What have you guys got planned? You got any big plans together here in the near future before it gets too cold to hunt?
Oh, we're always kicking ideas around and getting together. I've been super busy lately, but he keeps sending me pictures of all the great stuff he's finding to make me jealous. So he knows I'm coming out soon.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
He's teasing me. He's sending me teasing pictures. He's going, "Look what I just found." I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah, that's just wrong. Hey, guys, we got time for one more call. If somebody wants to call in, I see Mark put the number back in there. It's 270-495-0315. You can ask a question for this hunting duo here, Pop Can Dan and Redbeard, DJ Dowling, and ask any question that you want for them before we close the show out.
Right on. Hey, Seven, can I say one quick thing while we're waiting?
Sure.
I was going to give a quick shout out here. I picked up a book recently called The Ring Finder with Steve Zazulik. And I read the book. I love doing ring returns for people when I can. And boy, oh boy, what a wealth of information that thing is. So it's not a shout out for Steve. I just popped into my head now. But boy, oh boy, what a great book. People definitely should be getting that.
Yeah, it is.
He knows his stuff, that guy.
Yeah.
I tell you what, there's a lot of good tips, even if you're an experienced detectorist, because Steve's the type of guy you want to pick his brain at events, because he's just the knowledge that comes off of that guy is remarkable.
Yeah. And, me and Mark were talking whenever Mark came up to Kentucky and stayed on our houseboat. We had a lot of time to sit around and chat and what have you. But we were talking about that book is a lot more than just telling you how to find rings. It'll tell you about detectors and a lot of tips that no matter what kind of detecting that you do, you're going to get something out of that book as well. But he's just one of so many great Canadian detectorists that we have not only met but had on the show. Allison Walker is another one.
Yeah, she is the salt of the earth, that woman.
Yeah. And I'm still working on doing an article on her for American Digger magazine. We've had some scheduling conflicts to get together on that and everything. But that was a great show that we had with her. And then we've had Steve on a couple of times, I guess. And then we've had Steve on 2 or 3 times on American Digger because he's a columnist over there. And
yeah. Sorry, Seven. I was going to mention quickly. We have one video out there with DJ, Allison, and myself. We all did a video together, the three of us. It was quite a fun day.
Yeah, what's funny about Allison is no one, like, I don't know if people know this or not, but she is so strong. Every time she sees Dan and I, whether it be an event or in person, she runs over and grabs us and picks us up, and we're like, oh, no, what are you doing? She is so incredibly strong, it's not even funny. You want to stay on her good side. She's nice and sweet, but don't ever tick her off, because she's tough, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and, well, she was a lineman.
Yeah, still is too. Yeah,
she was the first female lineman for Canada.
Yeah,
or for that province, I think. Maybe it was the province, but I know she was one of the first.
I don't think that she's actually working on the lines anymore, though. She's got more of a administrative job now, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think, I think she switched over to administrative maybe a couple of years ago. But, yeah, I tell you what, she is tough as nails and just the sweetest woman you could ever meet and know.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list. I want to meet Allison Walker. Of course, I want to meet you guys too and hunt with you, but I really want to meet Allison Walker because she stole my heart when we had her on the show, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
she's the best.
I'm going to tell y'all how all three of y'all can do that. Now, Allison came down to Florida last April when it was freezing cold up there in Canada, and she came to our Central Florida metal detecting event, and we had a great time. She was here. We did a private hunt the following day. You guys, Loy, you need to come down. DJ, Dan, if you guys get tired of that cold and you want to come down, you're welcome to come down to that hunt.
That is awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
I'm going to do that.
Awesome.
I'm going to do that this year. I'm not going to go to. I'm not going to go to Digging in Virginia. I go there every year, and I said this last year that I might not do that, and that's normally in March or April, and I'm going to branch out and go somewhere else. I think I'm going to come down there, and you guys don't know it, but me and Mark have been spending time here recently Mark getting recertified as a diver and me getting certified, so we're doing some scuba diving, so that'll open that up for me down there.
Yeah, we love that.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. And Allison can come down and we can dive together. Either one of you guys scuba dive?
I just snorkel. I plan on getting my licensing for it, but time has just not been on my side.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I've only scuba dived once, and that was on my honeymoon in Antigua, but I like DJ, I do a lot of snorkeling as well, and we actually swap equipment. We trade equipment off a lot too. I'll call him up and say, hey, can I scoot over to your house and pick this up? He goes, yeah, no problem, and But yeah, we both do a lot of snorkeling like that.
Yeah, that's fun too. Sure is.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, you guys have been great guests tonight. We couldn't ask for better. It was a fun show, and I knew it would be a fun show. Give out, I tell you what, each one of you just give out your contacts, your YouTube channel, your Facebook, and whatever else that you want to say here in closing.
Okay, I'll go. I guess I'll go first. So Popcan Dan on YouTube, Daniel McDonnell on Facebook. And I just want to give a quick shout out to, there's so many great detectorists up here in Canada. We hunt with a guy named Mike Dury. They call him the Bradford Beeper, the man from Clad. We got 92 Finder. There's a bunch of great, Don LeClaire. The list just goes on and on. Great Canadian detectorists. And of course the Godfather, Jack Summers from Radio World. He is such an awesome guy. And, yeah, I think that's all for me.
What about you, DJ?
You know what? Just youtube.com/Redbeard Relic Hunter, and you can see me torture Dan. But honestly, everyone needs to sign up to his YouTube because he's still my favorite YouTuber. So I got to throw that out there. I've got a lot of YouTubers I love, and there's some really, like he said, incredible people in Canada. And we're all kind of under the hoop of Jack because Jack is, I think Jack is everything that makes metal detecting have its morals and just be an incredible hobby. So yeah, shout out to Jack. I hope to see everyone at that event this Saturday because I'll be in the Mine Lab test pit there. So you can see the Vanquish because the Vanquish in Canada is actually getting seen there. So yeah, and shout out to Popcan because I think he has taught me a lot. I know he said I taught him a lot, but he doesn't give himself enough credit sometimes, and everyone needs to watch him on video because he's the best YouTuber, hands down.
Oh my God.
Wow. Is my check in the mail, Dan? You're getting my check in the mail, right?
E-transferred. It's already on its way.
Go ahead, Mark, and I'll let you say your piece, and then we'll close the show out here tonight.
Yeah, and Dan and DJ first, thanks for calling in. It's always a pleasure to chat with you and have you call in and be a part of Dan's show. And Dan, you are a wonderful guest. I want to thank you personally for agreeing to be on tonight and sharing some of your stories. I look forward to meeting you. I'm now subscribed to your YouTube channel. I look forward to going back. And you know what? I cannot wait until you post those videos around Halloween about what happened on those experiences. So thanks again for coming on tonight. We loved having you on the show. It was a lot of fun.
No problem. I just want to say Mark and Seven, and I know Jeff's not here tonight. I like to consider you guys friends though now. I just you guys are so kind, wonderful people.
Thank you so much. And I've been subscribed to your channel for a while. In fact, I subscribed to your channel right after we had DJ on, and he told us about you. So, and I got to see your first water video.
I just want to say one thing quick there. I still never got my royalties for that one.
Oh, okay. So. Checks in the mail, DJ. Checks in the mail. Hey, you two guys, hang on if you will, and we'll say our goodbyes off the air. But I'm going to go ahead and close the show out. Great show tonight. Great guest, but I knew that it was going to be. And I don't want to close without offering our thoughts and prayers to Tennessee Jeff and Jennifer and the whole family with Jeff's dad in the hospital. I hope that they get all of his problems under control and that he regains his health and gets to go back home as soon as possible. But we will mention the other podcast. We always do. There's Beyond Sight and Sound with Josh Kimmel every Sunday night and Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. All Metal Mode with Mike Hare and Gypsy Jules on Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. American Digger Relic Roundup with Butch Holcomb, Jeff Lupert, and myself on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Hardcore Metal Detecting with Derek Asklar and Craig Talley every Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. and they are doing some breakfast shows at 7 in the morning about 3 days a week. I think it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then XP Team USA with Dave Kimball and Grant Hansen are on every other Friday night at 8 o'clock. And hopefully Jeff will be back here on RELICS Radio with me. But we'll see you next Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on RELICS Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at RELICS Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other podcast outlets. RELICS Radio is also syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Diggin' with 7 or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our RELICS Radio Facebook group page or Adventures in History on Facebook. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.